the Bible. Believe it or not, the filibuster is not in the Bible. The filibuster is a rule. It's nothing but a rule. 51 senators can throw it out tomorrow. It allows senators who represent 12% of the country to block all legislation in both houses. There's nothing more anti-democratic. The Democrats want to keep it around, number one, so that they can pretend the Republicans are still a force that's blocking things that they could do if the Republicans weren't blocking them. That's a wonderful excuse. And number two, because they want to have it to use against the majority will should the Republicans get back in the majority. But of course, by failing to do anything now, they virtually guarantee that the Republicans will get back in the majority. There's absolutely no excuse for keeping the filibuster around. So you look at this healthcare debate that's going on in terms of this question of how the Democrats could do better, and they behave very, very differently from those on the right, who simply go out there furthest extreme to the right. They care and speak their minds and demand it, and if the people in Washington can only get halfway there, okay, but they demanded what they wanted to demand. We start out by thinking, now what can we realistically expect to get? And then let's go a little further to the right than that. And it would be real smart and strategic if that's what we asked for, right? So we won't ask for single-payer health care because we don't think we're going to actually pass that this year. We won't make that our demand and then have the public option be the middle ground and compromise to it. We'll start out with this public option. We'll make that our opening demand. We'll make that the far left of the debate with no room left to negotiate. That's not how you do it on the right. And that's not how you give people a simple, understandable proposal that they can't invent theories about death panels and so forth, something that costs less, that saves money, that's been done in every other wealthy country on the planet. Instead, you open by giving them 80% of what they're asking for, and that you set that as one side of the debate. And then the middle ground becomes somewhere to the right of it. I don't think, Republican lightism is the way to win elections or to win legislation. I think you have to stop this appeasement and offer a clear alternative. It's much easier to explain, in fact, some of these clear alternatives like single payer than this wonkish public option nonsense that started out a lot stronger than what it is now. I think people voted for change. They didn't vote for subtle modification, right? You can't even put subtle modification on a sign. You vote for change. And people didn't vote for bipartisanship, right? Every time the Republicans get elected, there's a mandate for right-wing fascism. Every time the Democrats get elected, there's a mandate for bipartisanship, right? This is the corporate media's line, but the Democrats are happy to go along with it. They feel the same way. They want to be nice. They want to be bipartisan. They want to include the Republicans in everything. I think a better strategy would be not only to push majority views that are depicted in the corporate media as left-wing pinko communism, but to be the party of reform, reforms that everybody wants, that those on the right talk about but do nothing about. So be the party that's going to end gerrymandering. They talk about it, they're not doing it. Be the party that's going to end private campaign funding. Be the party that's going to create verifiable elections. Be the party that says, and party or individual, be the people who are going to say no more bailouts of any kind. No more military waste, no more aggressive wars, no more foreign empire, no more $140 billion a year for bases in other people's countries, no more media monopolies. John Conyers and Patrick Leahy yesterday have a bill to bust up the insurance companies. Let's bust up the media companies. No more corruption, no more nepotism, lower taxes for most of us, but higher for the corporations and the extremely wealthy, and for those who do not work for a living. And no more power in the hands of one person to make laws, to make wars, to make treaties, and no more filibuster rule. There is no excuse for it. have to pressure the elected officials you've got on this agenda, which helps down the line with future elections and can, in fact, move some of them. And you have to be forthright and you have to be aggressive, but it doesn't mean you have to be mean, doesn't mean you have to be like them, it doesn't mean you have to have party discipline. I think you're much better off without it. And I think that you have to be activists as well as insiders at the same time, and the two work together. You know, President Obama is absolutely right to not put this so-called missile defense nonsense in the Czech Republic and Poland. First really good thing, I've applauded. But you have to know the story that nobody's going to tell you, which is that a handful of people in the Czech Republic who were originally called crazies, organized, educated, got 130 mayors, passed city resolutions and took them to the state capitol and lobbied and won a vote and went on hunger fasts and persuaded 80% of their fellow citizens and overthrew a government and said hell no, and their government said hell no, and Obama couldn't have put a base in the Czech Republic if he wanted to. And they won't tell you where activism has a decisive role. Last week, the Army said, we're not going to put these fantasy video killing game park arcades in shopping malls to teach 13-year-olds that it's fun to kill Muslims anymore. Why? Well, because the lousy economy has boosted recruitment so much that we don't need to. And you have the very activists whose protests shut that place down and won this decision, parroting that line from the Army as if it's credible. Well, we spend hundreds of millions of dollars on recruitment and can never get enough recruits. We persuaded President Bush not to pardon his subordinates. We made the Iraq War illegal. We prevented it from being worse than it was. We persuaded them to make a treaty to end it. We prevented an attack on Iran because we exposed the identical lies about Iraq. We drove Alberto Gonzalez out of town. We win victories at the local and state and national levels all the time that nobody will tell you about. Now, I don't think we have to know that stuff. I think we ought to be most active when things look gloomiest. I think it makes sense to cite the saying that says, let's save our pessimism for better times. But a lot of people have to think we're succeeding in order to try. And we are succeeding much more than we imagine. And we've turned this country against wars. And it is a majority opinion to oppose all of these wars now. And we have to stop thinking it isn't and go out and tell the remaining minority to get on board with us. I'll take any questions you got.
Yes, I have a question for you. I agree with everything